neighbors, it's Brad here at Etrailer, and today we're taking a look at installing the REDARC Tow-Pro Elite brake controller on a 2020 Sprinter 2500. So here we have it installed and it looks great. It's functioning wonderfully and it's right here where I need it to be, right by the steering wheel, so it's easy for me to get to this control when I need to manually apply the brakes. And that's done just at the push of a button here. And you can actually see it's illuminating, which is nice because it lets you know that it's actually getting that signal. And adjusting your gain is also going to be easy here. And with this nice backlit feature, you're going to see it easy to actually get the number according to your gain. Now, if you've had previous brake controllers, a lot of them can be pretty large and clunky, and you're having to mount them here, which can kind of get in the way of your feet, or you're mounting them down here to where it's not really ideal for applying the brakes when you need to. Having it right here at my controls is nice because I can access it as soon as I need to. And that's kind of the beauty of the REDARC system. The box is hidden behind here, you can't see it, and all the controls are done here. And while other brake controllers may have a readout with a screen, and some people like to have those features and be able to check on this, this is simple, easy, and it works without taking a bunch of real estate from your interior of the vehicle. So as you can see, I'm moving, and it's really nice because it senses inertia and it's going to light this accordingly. So a small little brake is that light pink, but if I really need to jab on the brakes and it needs to throw those brakes on the trailer on, you're going to get a nice red readout letting you know that it's applying hard. Now, as far as install goes on the Sprinter van, this is really easy to do. You can make it look nice and clean, everything tucks up well, and there can be an option by getting 2 piggyback adapters. It's going to make this plug and play, 0 splicing required, and this can be done probably in under an hour. It's really easy, and you'll be able to have trailer brakes within a small period of time, and it's going to look good in the process doing it. So the REDARC system is a great option for a brake controller that takes up a minimal amount of space as far as mounting it up. Some of your other ones are a little bit chunky and they can get in the way of your knees, and also can be troublesome to get a nice clean mounting position on them. Well, this is really nice because it's accomplished with this smaller little knob here, and this is going to plug into our knob and then into our module. Now off the module you have this plug which comes with it, and you're going to see that just plugs in, and this is going to run to the wiring to make the connection. And that's fine, this should work okay, but to make it truly plug and play and just a lot easier without having to do any splices, that can be accomplished by getting this piggy tail. And that's going to jump to this style connector, which then will go to this connector, and that'll plug in here. And this is going to go into the OEM tow package plug, making it nice and easy and not having to splice any wires. To begin routing it, we're going to start with our Takancha wire here, and we just need to find the factory plug that this is going to go into. And so on some of the Sprinters here, you're going to find that underneath the seat, tucked underneath this panel, you're going to find a green plug. You may have to dig around a little bit for it, but to make it easy, it is color matched to the plug that we'll be putting it in. Now there is only one way that it can go. You have a little locking mechanism up here, and that's going to go where this slot is. So go ahead and get that plugged in. Now, finding a path to route this up to our dash where we're going to mount our brake controller, there's not a whole lot of great options here, so I just kind of routed it up and underneath the seat rail, and I've checked to make sure that the seat can actually move forward and back without any binding. So I'll make sure to zip tie that in place so it doesn't catch. And then the rest of the wire I'm going to actually run underneath the floor mat, and that way we can route it up to our dashboard without any exposed wires. So I've gone ahead and I've attached it. Our customer here has a bracket for their center console, so I'm actually using that to kind of route it down, but just find a nice way to tuck this, and then you're going to see underneath this center floor mat here, I'm going to just kind of tuck the wire in there, and then also just following it, just kind of go under here, and that's going to gain us access to route it under the dash. And then we're going to go ahead and get some panels off and make the rest of our connections. So we have our wire ran here, and just kind of planning ahead, we're going to need to mount our module underneath here, and then you're still going to have the plug that goes to the actual controller that gives you quite a bit of space to move around. So finding a nice spot to zip tie this up or make sure that it's not going to be able to move is kind of crucial. And I think part of the easiest way to do this is we're going to pull this panel off, as we're going to need to pop these out, because this is where our controller is going to live. So let's go ahead and we'll get this panel off, and underneath you're going to see there's 4 T20 Torx bits underneath here that we'll go ahead and remove. Now with those out, you're going to want to simply kind of pry back here, try to get this plastic to pop. Just take your time. You might need to get this outer one here popped first. Let's do that. That one's pretty easy. Aha. So as I pull that panel off, I see that there's 2 more, so we'll go ahead and get those removed. Now let's try again. Now I know there's obviously going to be some electrical connections here, so when pulling this out, just make sure you're not yanking too far out and damaging the wires. Now when you get to this corner here where the cup holder is, this little tab wants to hang on there, so giving this a slight tug back just to kind of gain a little bit of clearance for that, and pulling back on the clips should allow this to drop out. To make it a little bit easier and gain you a little bit more room, we can go ahead and unplug our light controls here. So you're going to push on this tab. It's kind of tricky to get to here, but push that tab down, and then this little sliding lock will move out of the way, and then that should be able to come out here. And actually pushing that lock kind of allows that clip to push out a little bit more here, and just like that we have it undone. So now I'm going to take our other piggyback here that's going to go to our actual module, and let's get this connected. I can now route the rest of this wire, just tucking it under here. And this still gives me a decent amount of room to work with for mounting up our module. Now, it seems like we have a gap here on the panel. I want to make sure that there's nothing behind here, but what we can actually do is get this, just take some self-tappers and mount this in place, and that's going to be great for running our wire up to where our controls are going to go. So let's go ahead and I think I'm going to go grab some self-tappers, make sure there's nothing behind here, which it looks like we are good, and we'll get this mounted up. Now, as far as routing this wire, obviously it's next to the brake or the gas pedal, which I don't want someone's foot to get caught up in that. So what I've done is I'm going to try to route this to a nice clean spot to where it's going to be out of the way. And there is a little gap here on this plastic. I just kind of moved this foot heat right there, the HVAC, just to kind of gain some access. I'm going to pull a little bit more slack. We'll tuck this, and then this is going to be nice for being able to put our piggyback there and attaching to our module. So now you're going to want to take your other pigtail, and it's going to be pretty easy here. We're just going to clip those together, and then this one is going to slide in, and this locking tab is going to be on the back side. And the rest of these wires here, we'll just tuck this excess back up. And honestly, we're gonna have our plastic going down here, so this should all be hidden. So now go ahead and get your connector. This actually plugs into the module and then into the switch. So we'll just get this connected. Now, there was some twist ties that came with this. I would suggest holding onto one, as we're probably going to be bundling up quite a bit of this wire, as our switch is going to be located right about here. But for now, since I have my location, I'm going to go ahead and grab my plastic panel and make space for our switch to mount up. So when mounting up your REDARC, you can kind of put it wherever fits your needs. Our customer here wants to actually mount it in this area because you have these knockout panels here, and that way you're not drilling into a whole plastic panel here. This is easy to replace if you ever want to take it out or replace it with something different. And it does come out with this little knockout panel, and that's going to live in here. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pop these out and figure out how we're going to mount that up and get it nice and clean looking. So to get these popped out, you have 2 tabs here. Just kind of pinch those, give a forward motion, and they should come out pretty easy. So if you are mounting to a different spot than these punch out panels, you can go ahead and use this. I think though I can omit that, and really this outside edge here, it looks as if the switch is going to fit in there pretty well. I'm going to be doing a little bit of drilling and cutting just to kind of fabricate this in perfect, but it's going to be a really, really good, clean looking install once it's all done. So let me get this mounted in and I'll show you how I did it. So here our actual knob is. It's going to fit in this pretty well with minor modification. So the way I'm going to do that, I'm just grabbing some snips here. I'm just going to clip off these tabs all the way down to where we get a flat surface on the bottom. I can actually get these kind of clipped out here. So now we're going to need to get the rest of that webbing out. You can go ahead and use your snip to kind of get in there a little more. And you're going to want that close to flush, because the way that this is going to sit, it's actually going to rest pretty well in the center there. And once we get that cleared out, you might want to take a file, get some of those edges out, and then we'll be putting a hole to actually get this mounted through. So I'm going to go through and I'm going to cut this clean and get that filed out. Now I've clipped quite a bit, as much as I can get my clippers in there. I think the rest of it, it's going to be pretty easy to just kind of hold it in form. That way it doesn't pull the plastic too much, but grab a pair of needle nose and you can bite onto that plastic tab and then just kind of twist off the rest of that. Really, we're just trying to make sure we have enough cleared out space for this to slide in. So you want to just kind of test fit it just to see if you can get that button to press, and then you'll know that you at least have enough cleared out for that. So again, needle nose, they're going to be big help here, and just kind of work at it. If you have a small file, that's also going to be a really good way to do that as well. So I've gone ahead and cleared this plastic out, and that's really going to make it nice and easy for our little controller here to slide in, but we're going to have to make a little hole in order for this to go through. Now I'm going to start with a smaller bit just so it's a little bit easier for it to drill through without cracking the plastic, and then we're going to need to space it out large enough. This collar actually goes in to tighten this into place, and so we're going to want to make sure that we'll make that hole a little bit bigger but not too large, and that way it has a nice secure fit. So first, let's get our pilot hole in. So I'm going to pick right at the center here. There we have our hole mounted there. So I'm going to just kind of test fit this through, just going to see if it's lining up right, and it looks like that's going to be a great spot for it. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to largen this hole, and so I've found a drill bit here, and it looks to be about the same diameter as this hole, and that's going to allow this collar to slide through. So really, if you want to, you can make sure that your drill bit's the same size as that collar, and that should be a good fit. Now we're going to enlarge the hole here. You might want to put this on a vise if you have one available, and that way it's going to not spin around on you. So we'll go ahead and get these burrs out real quick and give it a nice little test fit. So now I'm going to put our switch through, and we're going to test fit to make sure that the collar actually fits on there. And that seems like it's going to be a perfect fit. So now I haven't tightened this down. I want to actually, we have our sticker that comes with the kit, and the sticker is really just, it kind of goes around, and when this illuminates, it makes it a little easier to see. But you see this little tab? That's going to be your indicator of where it's actually going to be at on its setting. So this sticker is a little bit wide for this knockout plug. So I'm actually going to trim this up, but I want to figure out where our dead center is, or at least where we want our indicator. And the best way to do that, just turn it counterclockwise all the way, and that's going to be 0. And then this little controller knob here can kind of go however you want. You know, if you want the REDARC to face one way, that's fine, but I think since it's going to be mounted up, it's going to be easy for the driver to see that the indicator 0 here is going to be great, and then that way when you adjust, you'll be able to see those numbers nice and easily. So I'll go ahead and I'll take our collar off. So here we have it installed, and it looks great. It's going to be easily accessible for the driver to not only see but to operate, and it's nice being able to use these little punch-out panels because you're not really having to drill in to the main plastic of the vehicle. So now we have this installed. All we got to do is make our connection from our REDARC module. So we'll go ahead and plug that in. And then this other end is simply going to go to the back of our brake controller. And pushing the button, we see the light come on. So all that's really left to do is get our panel put back in place. Then we need to go out and get this calibrated, and then we'll be ready to tow. And what we're doing here is going to be getting up to 20 miles per hour and then braking and then repeating that process until you'll see this light will actually turn blue and it's going to stay solid. Now you're going to need to hook up to your trailer, or if you have a 7-pole tester with a box that gives the output, that's going to be ideal, but it does need to see a load on here in order for it to be calibrated. So if you're installing this and don't have your trailer available, I definitely suggest when you get to your trailer, the first thing you're going to want to do is calibrate to make sure this is working. So let's take this out and we'll get some braking going on. Now the reason we're doing this is because the module box is going to try to find its location. It can be mounted really in any orientation, but doing the calibration test kind of gives it an idea of where it's actually going to live in the vehicle and how that motion is going to be working during the braking. So getting a little more speed, we'll hit the brakes again. So there we had, after about 6 or 7 times of braking, we have our solid blue light, so we are officially calibrated. So once you hook up to your trailer, all you'll need to do is adjust your setting of brakes and you'll be good to go and ready to have your brakes applied on your trailer at the push of a button. And that was a look and installation of the REDARC Tow-Pro Elite brake controller on a 2020 Mercedes-Benz Sprinter 2500. Thanks for watching.